Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Nelson, here on this wonderful day of basketball. And I say wonderful because basically, the series kind of wrote itself. The segments for today, they basically wrote themselves. There's really all the news that happened in basketball that literally just happened recently, that's what's going to be covered on this segment for today. So the first segment, it's going to be talking about the the Timberwolves going up 2-0 in the series against the Denver Nuggets. And then in the second segment, we are going to be talking about the Knicks going up against the Pacers and winning in Game 1 at home behind Jalen Brunson. And then in the third segment, we are going to talk about the comments that Pat Riley made towards Jimmy Butler and exactly what that entails, what that could entail, and what could happen in the future, for this Miami team. We also have a special fourth segment, and I'm sure you guys know exactly what that fourth segment is going to be, but I am going to hold off on that until the third segment where I reveal what it is. Before I begin with this first segment, I'd like to remind everybody to please remember to tip and to donate to get your comments recognized using the link in the description or the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment. It is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. And let's go ahead and dive right into this little debate in the not really debate, excuse me, I'm using the wrong words. Let's dive into the first game, the second game of this series, which is Game 2 against Denver. And they were at Denver, the Timberwolves, and surprisingly enough, the Timberwolves they shockingly were able to steal both of the home games from Denver when I didn't even think they were going to win Game 1 to start out the series, just based off of how reluctant Denver really is, and based off of how every single time Denver seemed to have this lead over the Lakers in the postseason, they were able to compose themselves and then they were able to come back. Obviously, this is a completely different team than the Lakers, and one thing that definitely sets this team apart is their defense. That's the biggest difference from the Timberwolves from playing the Timberwolves to playing the Lakers. The Timberwolves, their defense was ranked number 1 throughout the entirety of the season, and excuse me. Because of that, obviously their team is just going to be a lot more difficult to score on, especially with all of the big men that they have in their rotation, so that way they have enough matchups to be able to guard to be able to guard Nikola Jokic. And what really surprised me in this game was how their defense was still this strong despite having Rudy Gobert, who is their best defender. And the final score, it was 106-80, so this is a blowout win for the Timberwolves. This was the lowest scoring game that the Nuggets have played throughout the entirety of this season. And the Timberwolves, on their end, they were able to do that without even having Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, he decided to take the game off because his son was being born. And obviously, if your son is being born, it makes sense that you'd want to be there because you'd want to be a good father. That just makes total sense. However, Gilbert Arenas, he had some things to say about that. And he commented how the kid is going to be there by the time he got back from the game. That is a very egregious comment from Gilbert Arenas, I will say, because I don't think Gilbert Arenas is a good dad, honestly. If that's his logic, that the baby will be there after the game, that is a terrible logic to have as a father. As a player, obviously, it's completely different, but as a father, there comes a point where things are bigger than basketball, and I genuinely don't think he understands that. And, he says that, one thing that I find kind of ironic is he says that the child will be there when he gets back, But why did he bring? But then there was if that's his logic that the child is going to be there when he gets back, why did he have to bring a gun into the locker room? The gun's going to be back home. The gun's going to be at home when he gets back. Why did he have to bring it to the locker room? I'm just throwing that out there. But regardless, this Timberwolves team is way better than what I thought they would be in the postseason. And it's all thanks to, this game specifically is all thanks to Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns in terms of the offensive side. But the team played very, very great on the defensive side, and it flustered Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. And because those two were flustered, their offense had a much more difficult time rolling. And this is what I was talking about with teams having defenses and sort of being able to impact their team in different ways as opposed to just scoring. Like I mentioned how the Timberwolves, they have just scoring and they don't have the defense. This is what happens when a team has both scoring and defense. Like the Timberwolves, they scored 106 in this game, and they scored 106 in the previous game as well. However, they've had their defenses to be able to slow down the other team so that way, because 106, like that's a lot. That's obviously that's a lot of points, but in today's NBA, that's not really like the expected final score. It's usually around 115 or like 120 that I think that the scoring is really potent. And it was a bit of a I wouldn't say it was a bit of a slow-paced game, but it was a bit of a low offensive producing game, because when you look at the box scores on this game right here, the Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards ended the game with 27 and 7, which was obviously fantastic. Karl Anthony Towns ended with 27 and 12, which is also fantastic, and he shot 10 for 15 from the field as well. Anthony Edwards shot 11 for 17 from the field, very, very impressive. And however, the rest of the team did not really do that much or didn't really provide as much in terms of scoring. So, except for Alexander Walker, who ended the game with 14 points. Naz Reid ended the game with 14 as well, but he was 5 for 14 from the field. And a lot of people on the Timberwolves, some of them shot inefficiently. What really kept them afloat was Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns' efficiency. They were able to shoot 50% from the field as a team and 39% from the three-point line, which was far better than what the Nuggets were able to do offensively. And their defense, they completely stopped Jokic and Jamal in this game. I mean, Aaron Gordon ended the game with 20 points, but Jokic ended the game with 16 points, 16 rebounds, and 6 assists. That is a very lackluster performance coming in from Jokic, especially when Rudy Gobert isn't in the rotation. And then Jamal Murray, he ended the game with only 8 points and shot 3 for 18 from the field. Michael Porter Jr., 9 points, 4 for 12 from the field. And it's just all of these. And also Reggie Jackson, 1 for 6 from the field. It was really bad shooting from the Denver Nuggets because of the defense that the Timberwolves were playing on them. And that's really the biggest difference maker, just the fact that they have that defense. And usually the team that has the best defense in these playoffs ends up being the team that wins out in the end. So the Timberwolves, they have a really good shot right here. Now, the fact that they beat the Denver Nuggets at home 2 times in a row, that's just even more reason as to why they definitely have a shot. Because I've said several times that I think there's no other team in the league that could compete against the Denver Nuggets, and here we are with the Timberwolves taking advantage of the matchups that they have in this series. And if they can stop Jokic and Jamal, then being able to stop Shai and Chet should also be something that they're capable of. Because I personally think Jokic is a very, very good center, And then I think Chet is a decent center. Like, he's a decent center. Shai Gilgeous is a very, very, very great point guard. And Jamal Murray is an extremely underrated point guard. So the point guard center matchup between Shai, Chet, and Jamal Jokic, it's sort of, I wouldn't want to say similar because their play styles are rather different and the number one option is also different, but stopping the both of them is also just as important. And the fact that the Timberwolves have good center rotations to be able to slow down Chet, because Chet is really, really tall, that's going to help them that's going to help them, as well as the fact that they were able to stop Jamal Murray around the perimeter. So if they're able to stop Jamal Murray around the perimeter, they could also, in theory, they could also try and figure out a way to slow down Shai around the perimeter or around the mid-range game where he loves to operate. And those are sort of the things that we have to see going into like the series. Obviously, I'm not going to say that this series is over, because normally it would sound like it's over. I mean, the Timberwolves, they just stole 2 games from Denver, and now they're going home to play 2 games in Minnesota, where they have a chance to in home court where they have a chance to sweep. And I don't think that this series is going to be over, because this Nuggets team is a formidable team, and they should be able to. Why did the lights just go out? Jeez, why does that always happen? But regardless, they should be able to come up with a game plan to be able to win out at least one game in the road trip going to Minnesota. And since that team is a rather good team, I think that they have a chance to make this series competitive still. And about the game itself, I mean, it was really never close throughout the entirety. And it's like the game seemed over right when the first half ended. And it really didn't seem like the Nuggets were really trying to do something to get back into the game. And it was really surprising seeing the Denver Nuggets lose this badly in the postseason to a team, especially to a team that's so young and rather inexperienced, and behind a franchise that is known for having rather bad luck in the postseason. And I mean, the reality of it is that both of these teams are really, really good, and we shouldn't count either of these teams out until the final game. And that's basically all I really had to say about this game. I mean, there's not really much that needs to be talked about other than the fact that they're going into Minnesota and they're expected to win out. They're expected to win it all, even though, I feel like I feel like the Denver Nuggets are going to make it a little bit more challenging for them with this sort of much longer break. But we are out of time for this first segment. So now I will go into the second segment where I talk about Jalen Brunson and the New York Knicks beating the Indiana Pacers at home in Game 1 to start out the series. So I will be right back after this short break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. Some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the second segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this second segment, we are going to be talking about the Knicks game against the Pacers over in Madison Square Garden. But before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody to please go ahead and use the link in the description or the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment to go and get your comments recognized. The link is gsmcpodcast.net. It really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. And with that out of the way, we can go right ahead and go into the second segment, which is going to talk about this really close game between the Pacers and the Knicks. It was really close, and the game was full of runs. One moment, the Pacers would go on a run. The other moment, the Knicks would go on a run. And a lot of the Pacers' runs, like they were able to force a lot of turnovers due to Knicks' mistakes, and they were able to capitalize off of those turnovers, thus making the game a lot closer than what it is really like to be expected. And the Pacers, they ended up winning the second quarter, but after that they ended up losing in the second half. Like they were up to go into the half, but then they ended up losing. Now, this is Brunson's fourth consecutive 40-point game, and he's the first player since Michael Jordan to accomplish that. And obviously that is insane, and that is absolutely ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as Josh Hart playing every single minute of this game. Every single minute. He is a 6'4" point guard, and he is, well, not really a point guard, but he's a 6'4" guard, shooting guard, whatever you want to call him. That is, he scored 24 points in this game, got 13 rebounds, and 8 assists, along with 3 steals. 13 rebounds as a 6'4" guard is unreal. It is absolutely unreal just how valuable Josh Hart really is. He is literally, in this series and in this playoffs, he's been the LeBron of role players. Like, he's been the best role player for any other team that I've seen in this postseason. The way that he gets these offensive rebounds and is able to make second chances or give the Knicks second chances to score is insane. And not only that, there are times where he's actually like able to shoot the ball as well and score efficiently as well. He shot 9 for 13 from the field and 1 for 1 from 3 for 24 points, which is very, very impressive. And honestly, all of the starters in this game, they played very, very impressive, and they all played 44-plus minutes, which is ridiculous coming in from Tom Thibodeau. Like, there's not a single player on the Pacers that exceeded playing 40 minutes. And here they are on the Knicks having 4 players play more than 42 minutes. Like, DiVincenzo played 44 minutes, Jalen Brunson also played 44 minutes, and OG played 42 minutes. And OG has also been very valuable. Jalen Brunson and OG's record when they both play together is 20-2. Like, that is ridiculous right there. And he ended the game with 13 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 very, very important clutch steals that ended up deciding the game in the fourth quarter. Those 2 steals were incredible that he had. And he shot 5 of 14 from the field, which wasn't really that impressive, but his defense late in the game more than made up for his lack of scoring. And now with Jalen Brunson, who might be the best point guard in the NBA right now. He might be the best point guard in the NBA. I can't really think of any other point guard that's going to be better than him or that is better than him right now. The only two that really stand out to me at the point guard position for that, or that even have an argument, are Luka and Shai. And even then, I think like that argument is a little bit more in favor of Brunson than it is in either of those two players. And hold on, just 1 second. I'm looking at my notes real quick just to see what I had to say, because I did have some notes around Jalen Brunson and what I thought about him, just so I could. So essentially, when you run through like all the point guards in the Eastern Conference, there's Halliburton, who is egregious. I'll talk about the Pacers and Halliburton in a minute, but Halliburton has fallen off. Then Dame, he's also somewhat fallen off. Trae Young was hurt for a majority of the season, But I think if the Atlanta Hawks and the Knicks, if they play again in the series, that would be a matchup against two undersized guards and one that is ridiculously hated by all New York fans. That would be the matchup of the century, honestly. Then there's Tyrese Maxey, who is a second option point guard, who isn't the first option like Jalen Brunson. De'Aaron Fox, he got bounced early. He didn't even make the playoffs. Darius Garland, he also kind of fell off. I thought he was going to be a rather good point guard. Drew Holiday, he's always been a little bit meh recently, and he's not on that same level as JB, obviously. And then Curry throughout the entire season was also a little bit meh. And I say that because there would be times where he would score less than 10 points, and that happened a lot of the times this season, more so than it usually does. And I can't help but think if LeBron were to be the one that ended up dropping less than 10 points, the media would never hear the end of it. And then that only leaves Luka and Shai and Jamal Murray, if you want to be technical. But Jamal Murray is arguably the most underrated point guard in this league, and what right now, this postseason, is not really looking good for him. Not to mention the fact that he also has Nikola Jokic to he's also a number 2 option in that sense. But I think that Jalen Brunson, he might be the best point guard in the NBA right now. 4 consecutive 40-point games as a 6'1" guard, and his fourth quarter was absolutely phenomenal. There was a point where in the fourth quarter, Tom Thibodeau, the head coach, would call isolations for Jalen Brunson. I literally saw him on the sideline. He was doing this. And whenever you do this, that usually means ISO in basketball, and it means spread the floor, which entails isolation. And every time Jalen would get the ball, he would straight up go over to he would go over to where, because the Knicks he was on this side, we'll say he was on this side, and the Knicks were on this side. So he would walk over to this way so that way the Knicks players can see him and what he wants to be run, and he would go like this. And everyone would clear out to let Jalen Brunson cook. The fact that the own coach is calling isolations for you in the fourth quarter and you are delivering, I don't know if that is a more I'm him moment than anything else. And he still has yet to score. If he continues the streak of scoring 40-point games every single time, I think it's a done deal. He might be the best point guard in the league. And the fact that he was a second-round pick too is insane. The fact that he was able to develop like this. It's really unfortunate that Dallas had to move on from Jalen in order to play. But they do have Kyrie. So, when you look at it and when you look at the success that the Mavs are having and the success that the Knicks are having, It seems like a little bit of a, everything turned out just fine. But I think Jalen Brunson, he might have been a better obvious. I think Jalen right now, he might be a little bit better than Kyrie. And it's really difficult. It's really difficult for me to actually say that because I see what Kyrie does on the court and it's ridiculously skilled. But Jalen Brunson, he also is able to produce just as much, if not more, than Kyrie on any given night. But that's just me. Now, we talked about mainly the Knicks in this game. So now let's look at the Pacers and what went wrong. So, obviously, what went wrong was the defense late in the fourth quarter. Jalen Brunson was straight up torching the Pacers. And another thing that was really bad was the officiating. There was some really questionable calls in this game, and it was it was really weird. And I mean, it was bad on both ends. But the real problem that this Pacers team sort of has is just their lack of defense. And not being able to guard Jalen Brunson. They were just letting Jalen Brunson isolate. They were not sending double teams. They were not doing any of that in this game to stop Jalen Brunson. And the fact that their defense is really this bad, it sort of helps Jalen Brunson, and it allows him to score as many points as he does with ease. Now, another thing that also doesn't help them is the fact that their all-star point guard, Tyrese Halliburton, ended the game with 6 points, 8 assists, and 4 steals. The 4 steals are the only positive thing about his performance. He shot 2 for 6 from the field. And in the fourth quarter, we sort of saw 2 different star point guards and how 2 different star point guards play. One I mentioned before, Jalen Brunson, he delivered. 40-point game. Balled out. That is all-star point guard. Tyrese Halliburton. In the fourth quarter, instead of taking over, he was just passing every single time he had. Any attempt that he would just pass the ball. He would give it up. He would try something. If it didn't work, he would give the ball up. And he's not been that same aggressive scorer that he was in the beginning of the season or that same playmaker that he was at the beginning of the season. And he's really fallen off since then. I try to tell you guys. I try to tell you that, but you didn't listen. I try to tell you that Trae Young was better than Halliburton. Jalen Brunson was also better than Halliburton. And there were so many other point guards that were better than Halliburton, but no. Tyrese Halliburton was going to be the best point guard in the league. Look where that turned out for you now. I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking down on Halliburton and his play, because he is a really good player and things like that, but a lot of people were giving him way too much hype than what was needed for him. And I genuinely did not agree with that. And they were saying that he was better than all of these other point guards. Look where we are right now. That downfall is painful. It's honestly crazy how this downfall just happened. And if Halliburton cannot perform, and what's even crazier is how there's barely any media coverage about that too. Nobody is talking about how lackluster Tyrese Halliburton has been in the postseason, or how bad he's been in the regular season leading up to this postseason as well. And he's sort of lucky that he doesn't have to deal with that kind of scrutiny, but still, that is really bad for the Pacers. The fact that because he was a very key piece to their offense and running the system that they were running with their fast pace. Now, if he's not scoring, that's just one facet that they're losing, and a very important facet. So, Miles Turner, he ended the game with 23 points. Pascal Siakam ended the game with 19 points. They both shot 8 for 16 from the field. TJ McConnell shot 9 for 16 with 18 points. And Aaron Naismith ended the game with 12 points, 3 for 6 from the field. And that was basically all the important scoring coming in from the Pacers. Meanwhile, and it still wasn't really enough to stop the Knicks. And we really have. I'm not going to really say much, but I really think that the Knicks are going to end up sweeping this Pacers team. The game was close, but if the games are going to be decided by fourth quarter performances like this, I got Knicks all the way. I don't think there's anybody on that team that can stop Jalen Brunson. But that's just me. So with that, we are out of time for the second segment, and I will go ahead and go into the third segment where I talk about Pat Riley's comments on Jimmy Butler and exactly what he had to say to him.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Just adjusting this light a little bit. And in this third segment, we are going to be talking about Pat Riley's comments towards Jimmy Butler. So, a little bit of backstory on the situation, because I didn't really cover it. I didn't have enough sections to sort of cover this when Jimmy Butler was doing it, and I really didn't think they were that much of a section. But throughout the entirety of Miami Heat's postseason and their run, Jimmy Butler has been a little bit of a troll. And Jimmy Butler was injured just before entering the postseason and therefore wasn't able to play. Like, he was injured in the game against Philly, and therefore he wasn't able to suit up and play in the playoffs for the Miami Heat, where they ended up playing the Boston Celtics. But he was trolling throughout this throughout the series. Like, after the Miami Heat were able to steal a game in Boston, Jimmy Butler would then posted a picture on Instagram where he cropped his face in front of Jalen Brown's face, saying, with the quote underneath saying, "Don't let us get one," because that's what Jalen Brown said to the media about the Miami Heat when they were down 3-0 in the series against them in the previous year. And he's sort of bringing that back in the hopes that the Miami Heat would have been able to win that series in the end. Eventually, the Boston Celtics ended up winning the last 3 games, and they ended up winning 4-1. And after they won 4-1, Jimmy Butler online goes, talks to somebody else, and he asks, "Are you recording? Are you recording?" to the camera. And he says, "If I was on the court against Boston, we would have won. If I was on the court against the New York Knicks, we would have won." Basically just instigating a lot of stuff, saying that, like, the win was a little bit illegitimate and it would have been a whole different story if he was in the postseason, all this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. He was trolling. Like, he was really, that's really what it seemed like he was doing. And Pat Riley did not like that one bit. And at a press conference, he was quoted saying this: "If you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut." And a lot of people, they sort of didn't really like that he said this in a press conference. They felt like it should have been said in the locker room and things like that. But here's the thing. That's Pat Riley. That guy has 9 rings on his fingers. He can say whatever he wants, and his word is golden. And honestly, he's right, because there's no telling how the series could have played out if Jimmy Butler played against New York. There's no telling how the series could play out if Jimmy Butler were to play against the Boston Celtics. Sure, they won twice when Jimmy Butler was on the Miami Heat, but when it was in the roster. But in case he's forgotten, in the Eastern Conference Finals, when the Celtics ended up winning the series, he was the one who missed the most important shot to tie the game. And he's saying that the series would have been a little bit different. I'm not entirely sure. It's really up for debate on who would have won the series if Jimmy Butler was playing. And he has this sort of inflated confidence because playoff Jimmy takes over the media, but he's really I'm sorry, it's not all that. I'm not a big fan of playoff Jimmy. I think it's a myth, and this sort of troll-like demeanor, obviously, he's really confident that he will beat anyone that he plays, and you want that in a player, but to say this and to sort of instigate this when you're not even playing is kind of low. And Pat Riley definitely knows this, because, why on earth even bother saying this kind of thing in front to the media? It's literally just it seems like it's just for attention. And I like that Pat Riley sort of addressed this towards Jimmy. Now, does this mean that Pat Riley might have a little bit more of a sour opinion on Jimmy Butler going into the next season? Will Pat Riley try and do something to get Jimmy off the team? Will Jimmy want to get off the team, or is everything all good? That's sort of now there's sort of the question on whether or not Pat Riley wants Jimmy Butler on the Miami Heat now, after this sort of immature comments that he was making towards the players and towards the Celtics and the Knicks. Because if we're going to be real, I really feel like those comments they're just really unnecessary. I mean, if you aren't in the game, you really cannot talk. There's really nothing you can say. I mean, and if you wanted to be in the series, you should have just stayed healthy. I mean, a lot of people are going to say, oh, that's not really in their control because things happen, and I understand that. But you got to be reliable for your team. If you're going to start talking like this, you need to be reliable for your team. And it comes as a shock that I did not expect Pat Riley to really go on a press conference and announce this. But I'm really glad that he did, because it does address the situation, and it shows that Pat Riley is unhappy. And I think he's unhappy because it's it shows a lack of class coming in from Jimmy Butler. And someone like Pat Riley, he understands all about class and things of that nature. He's been a player, he's been an assistant coach, he's been a coach, he's been a GM. He understands professionalism. And Jimmy's lack of professionalism is swayed him the wrong way. And I really like that he sort of brought that to attention. Hold on, I thought I had a sneeze there. Because that was really... It was really out of pocket. I really, obviously, I thought it was kind of funny because he was trolling, posting all of these things from his couch at home. But, other than that, it's really, it was really classless coming in from him. And, I don't see the entire purpose as to why he even bothered trying to instigate those kinds of things. It's really unfair. Because, you don't know the results of the game if you would have been playing in that game. And Pat Riley knows this because he's literally been he's been there, he's done that, he's done all of that. I mean, 9 rings speaks for itself. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous to me. And it's like, Jimmy, now, the real question, I wonder if Jimmy is going to try and respond to this. And I wonder how he's going to respond. Because Pat Riley, like, while a lot of people, a lot of Miami Heat fans, for some reason, they don't really think Pat Riley is a good GM, which I don't understand why. But I wonder how he's going to respond to this. Is he going to be disrespectful towards Pat Riley, or is he going to understand it? Is he going to actually delete the post, or is he just going to stay quiet like how he's supposed to when he's injured and he's on the bench like that? If he does say something towards Pat Riley, I wouldn't be surprised if Pat Riley gets rid of him, because, I mean, Pat Riley has 9 rings. He should not have to deal with listening to someone that has 0 talk to him like he's that guy. Like, I don't know if you understand it, but Pat Riley is he is Heat culture. Like, the Heat culture is sort of like work harder and just push through and the things of that nature, because that is the Heat culture. Like, they'll push through. It doesn't matter with Spoelstra and things of that nature, and they'll just work harder and accomplish these kinds of things. And that's sort of the culture that they've had around with that team for a minute. But Pat Riley, he is Heat culture. And what he said, it's really it displayed professionalism. And I imagine if you don't see LeBron going out and doing this. You don't see Steph Curry doing this. You don't see excuse me. You don't see Klay Thompson doing this. You don't see Paul George doing this. You don't see Harden doing this. You don't see Kawhi doing this. You don't see who else? You don't see Jalen Brunson doing this. You don't see Dame doing this. You don't see Giannis doing this. You don't see all of these star players. They have some sort of professionalism. Notice how I did not mention Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid has 0 professionalism. I'm sorry to say, he has none whatsoever. And all of these stars, they all have the same kind of professionalism, and they all understand that anything can happen. And I understand, not even Ant wouldn't even say this. Ant is arguably one of the most confident players in the NBA right now. And not right now. Throughout the entirety of his career, he's been one of the more confident players. And I mean, at the start, when he was a rookie, he thought he was the best player in the NBA. And that's confidence right there. I mean, he obviously didn't think he was the greatest of all time, but there was a lot of confidence backing his statement. So you really can't. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being confident. It's how you're being confident. And that's really where Jimmy Butler went wrong. But that's sort of all I have for this third segment. It's a much shorter third segment than usual, because I can't really think of anything else that really needs to be said. I mean, the guy with 9 rings was basically telling the guy with 0 rings to shush, and the guy with 0 rings, we're gonna see if he's going to listen or if he's going to shush. It's one or the other. And I'm very curious to see if Pat Riley decides to trade him or to do away with him, and to see what other kind of star they could get. I mean, we would be really crazy if Jimmy joins the Clippers and Paul George joins the Miami Heat and they do a little swap. That would be pretty cool. Or if they get Paul George in free agency, or if they get, I don't think that's going to happen, but based off of what those comments and Pat Riley and his professionalism, I think this was just sort of he needed it to be addressed. This is not how the Miami Heat organization operates. His actions do not represent the Miami Heat organization. And that was what Pat Riley was sort of doing in this press conference, because whenever a player on a team does this, does that, or like whenever a player on a team does anything, it's reflective on the organization and what the organization allows. And if they do something bad, that looks bad on the organization. And therefore, Pat Riley, being a GM, he's trying to make sure that the organization doesn't look bad, because if they don't say anything, it's almost as if they are condoning this troll-like behavior and not teaching Jimmy Butler to be professional in this sense, or to be a little bit more mature. Because let's be real, that was a little bit immature doing what he did. I mean, like, really, you're not playing in the game. Why are you talking? And I don't talk trash to anyone. Like, unless there is concrete evidence, and by concrete evidence, I mean looking at the numbers that that prove that you are not a good player, I do not talk down on any of these players. I do not talk down on players. I genuinely do not like it. I think it's disrespectful. And obviously, when you're Jimmy, you can talk down on those players because you are on like the same level as them and you are better than them. And it's a little bit different when I do it because like they're on a completely different level than where I am in terms of basketball skill, obviously. But still, it's a lack of professionalism. I mean, not even Michael Jordan would actually, you know what? That might be a huge lie. Michael Jordan would definitely say if I was playing in that series, then we would have definitely won. But he wouldn't have posted it like that. He would have said it maybe in an interview that he feels that if he was playing, they would have won. Like, if he feels, because that is confidence right there. That is how you professionally display confidence. What Jimmy did was an unprofessional display of confidence, and that would be the difference between because when you look at it, there's really nothing wrong in saying that if I was playing in the series, we would have won. In an interview, especially if it was asked to you, do you think you would have won this series if you were playing? You would have said, 100% yes. And it looks different than going hey, you recording? If I was in that series, the Boston Celtics would have been done. If I was playing against the Knicks, Miami would have won. Because that's essentially what I just did. That was essentially what the clip was. He was like, you recording? Just to literally make sure that he got that on camera. And that's unprofessional. To me, that's really unprofessional. That's something that a literal teenager would do. That's something that someone in this college would do to try and start beef. Literally, that's something that they would do, and Pat Riley needed to address that so that they know the organization doesn't allow that kind of demeanor. But that's all that I have on this third segment. I know I said that a while ago, but I just thought of something else that I could talk about. So we're going to go into the fourth segment where we talk about your unanimous Rookie of the Year, Victor Wembanyama. So I will be right back after this short break.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we're going to be talking about Victor Wembanyama winning his Rookie of the Year unanimously. And this is going to be a little bit of a shorter segment because there's really no surprises here, at least for me. So, and not only that, I also have a meeting to attend to a little bit later, so got to make sure that I'm present for that. But Victor Wembanyama, Rookie of the Year, he got all 99 first-place votes. He won it unanimously. He was the 7th player, I believe, to win the Rookie of the Year unanimously. And he's also the first center to win Rookie of the Year, I believe, in a long time. There hasn't been a center of recent years that has won Rookie of the Year, let alone win it unanimously. So this was a crazy rookie season coming in from Victor. And what makes it even crazier was that people were doubting that he was even going to be the Rookie of the Year. When at the halfway point through the season, it was already decided that Victor was Rookie of the Year. Halfway through the season, everyone knew that Victor was, especially post All-Star break, and especially after the matchup between Victor and Chet, everyone knew that Victor was going to win Rookie of the Year. He basically sealed it right when he beat Chet in that matchup, and and after the All-Star break. A lot of the time, a lot of his great performances happen after All-Star break. And in my opinion, he sold it when he beat Chet. And he got the award. He won it when he beat Chet. And right when he did that, at that point, I think the question, it wasn't whether or not if he was going to win Rookie of the Year, but whether or not he was going to win it unanimously. And I said this and I called this on previous podcasts. If you've watched the shows, you know that I thought that Victor Wembanyama from the start was going to win Rookie of the Year. And it might not be, obviously, it wasn't, shocking. If you know basketball and you're not a hater, it wouldn't be shocking that he was going to win that award. It's just the fact that I called out that he was going to win it unanimously is what I'm really surprised of, because I genuinely thought there was going to be that one guy that would give Chet a first place vote. And that was honestly that was really a really good guess coming in from me, I do have to say. And let me just look at now the next award that he has to win is Defensive Player of the Year award. But it's that's going to be a little bit closer than Rookie of the Year. But there's really no argument for Victor winning Rookie of the Year in this case. He was leading rookies in every single statistical category aside from assists. He was averaging the most points, scoring the most points, averaging the most rebounds, getting the most rebounds, averaging the most blocks, obviously, getting the most blocks, obviously, averaging the most steals, and getting the most steals. He was leading in everything. There was really no argument. And the fact that people in the preseason and people before the NBA even started were saying that he was going to be a bust and that draft picks like Chet and Scoot and would be better than him, and Amar, and Eamon Thompson, they all thought that there was a chance that they could be better than him, especially Scoot. Scoot was a very popular he was a very popular rookie at the beginning. They were Scoot could probably win Rookie of the Year aside from Victor. And before the season even started, he was already getting doubted. And then in the preseason, when he had one bad game, everyone was like, oh, bust. Now, look at him now. The hate for him is completely gone, and all the haters are silenced, because that's literally Rookie of the Year right there, and there's no argument besides that. Zero argument. So I don't really think there's much that needs to be said, because if you are a fan of the NBA and if you've seen him play and you see what he's doing, you know that is the Rookie of the Year. For a fact, he's already in the conversations, in my opinion. He's already in the conversations for being one of the top big men in the NBA right now. And the only thing that's really holding him back is team record and team performance. And that's really not his fault, because through the first half of the season, he would have to deal with teammates reluctant to pass him the ball. He had to deal with adjusting. He had to deal with all of these things. And obviously, he wasn't going to perform as good until he adjusted. But then once he did adjust, it was game over. So now we just have to see if he's going to win Rookie of the Year, or if, not Rookie of the Year, if he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year over someone like Rudy Gobert. And he still has, I believe he has a case for it. Like, I would take Victor to win Rookie of the Year. I keep saying Rookie of the Year. I would take Victor to win Defensive Player of the Year aside from Rudy Gobert. Like, but if they pick Rudy Gobert, I wouldn't be that upset if they did. Like, I'd understand. But I think Victor deserves the Defensive Player of the Year. And if he does get it, that would be insane. He might be the best rookie ever if he gets Defensive Player of the Year. And one other thing that's like kind of coincidental is the fact that David Robinson, and then Tim Duncan, they were both first-round picks from the Spurs, both centers, and they both won Rookie of the Year. Victor is following in those exact footsteps, and this is going to be a whole new dynasty for the Spurs that we thought we would escape from the 80s, like in the 90s. Like in the 90s, we thought that they were going to end up declining, but they ended up not declining all the way up until Tim Duncan retired. And even then, they were still rather good after Tim Duncan retired with DeMar on the Spurs. And they've been a little lackluster recently, the Spurs as a team. But now that after this rebuild, we might see the Spurs dynasty emerge again. Because the Spurs, as a franchise, they have the best record for a franchise in NBA history. And it really could happen. Like, we might see another Spurs dynasty with Victor Wembanyama. But that's all I have on this segment because there's really nothing to talk about. I knew Victor was going to win Rookie of the Year before he even won it, and I had a feeling he was going to get it unanimously because there was just no argument for any other rookie to win it aside from him. So, with that being said, thank you for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And as always, please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment, which is GSMCpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes it more interactive between myself and you guys. And that is basically it for the show. Thank you all once again. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't